5 years ago, Irrational Games introduced us to the sickly yet delightfully dilapidated underwater metropolis of Rapture. It set a new standard in storytelling in the FPS genre at the beginning of this generation of hardware, and many games since have tried and failed to capture the same ambition that Bioshock treated us to. Earlier this year, Irrational Games took the reins again and took to the sky with both their imagination and capabilities as a game development studio, and created something outrageously spectacular. They're closing out this generation of gaming with a bang that every gamer should have the pleasure of playing: Bioshock Infinite. Set in an alternate version of 1912, the player assumes the role of Booker DeWitt, a former Pinkerton agent tasked with collecting a girl from the floating utopia of Columbia.
10,000 feet. 15,000 feet. Hallelujah.
Serving as a direct foil to Rapture from Bioshock 1, Columbia is built not as America looked in 1912, but rather as how we remember America to have looked in 1912. A color palette so saturated with bright and vivid colors like cotton candy helped reinforce Columbia as one of the most memorable locales in gaming. Unlike Rapture, Columbia is a lively, thriving city, and it allows the player the opportunity to enjoy a regular day in the sky before things go awry.
Show them what we got planned, boys!
However, as the rich, unpredictable story unfolds, you quickly learn that Columbia has extremely dark places. Racism is considered a norm.
Are you gonna throw it? Or are you taking your coffee black these days?
And all of its people fall under the spell of a self-proclaimed prophet and ruler of Columbia named Comstock. Comstock serves as the game's primary antagonist, whose main job is to protect the exact girl you've come to collect. It only takes an hour or two before you meet the pinnacle of Bioshock Infinite, the driving force behind everything you do in Booker's shoes. That girl's name is Elizabeth.
Hello.
Without going into too much detail, Elizabeth is one of the best things to have ever happened to Bioshock history. Booker stumbles upon her in a giant tower which she has been locked away in her entire life. After a heroic rescue, you begin your real adventure into a story of biblical proportions, crossing paths with philosophical, religious, political, and moral dilemmas that have been crafted with unparalleled detail and care. This isn't a game that should be rushed through. It's a pool of rich and engaging backstory that, if the player takes their time with, will drown you in an unrivaled story-driven experience.
A guitar. Wish I knew how to play. It might just spell some of the gloom.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by, by and by? Is a better home awaiting in the sky, in the sky?
Elizabeth is the driving force behind everything you do or want to do in Columbia, and your constant companion. She is an extremely well-developed character both in writing, animation, and sound. She's such a well-developed character, in fact, that she seems to leap out of the screen with her liveliness. She really isn't a character once you get to know her. She's a real person, with appropriate reactions and emotions to everything you do. She's a friend you need to meet yourself to fully appreciate, as my own words cannot describe the ungodly complexity and uniqueness of Elizabeth.
Hey, Miss Elizabeth.
Hello! Oh, this is wonderful! Oh, come dance with me, Mr. DeWitt.
I don't dance. Come on, let's go.
Why? What could be better than this?
She tosses you ammo and health when you need it. She resents having to kill in order to survive, and she explores her newfound freedom with the gracefulness of a Disney princess. Playing Infinite just to meet Elizabeth is more than enough of a reason to experience Infinite for yourself. Flip the game's coin over from cinematic storytelling over to gameplay, and you get a fairly familiar FPS game. Infinite draws from the now familiar formula of Bioshock 1 and 2, allowing the player to wield period firearms and superhuman abilities simultaneously to create ridiculously violent and fun combat options.
Let's kiss. Well, you only live once. This.
The mechanics are all as smooth as butter, allowing for fluid and exciting firefights. While not nearly as corridor-driven as previous games, you're still forced down a linear story with some open combat areas that allow for variation in combat. Couple that with different vigor and weapon combos, and you can get a decently replayable single-player experience, especially since Infinite lacks any online mode. The exceptionally well-made gameplay mechanics bound together with an unimaginably stellar story brings out the most fascinating and integral part of Infinite's success. It can only work as a game. The way the game is written and delivered only works as an interactive medium. The development between Elizabeth and Booker is dynamic on its own, but it reaches a far greater level of emotional and personal connection when it becomes Elizabeth's relationship with you as the player instead of just Booker. You aren't along for the ride, you're an integral part of it, and your input as a player serves as the backbrace of the entire story's success. Infinite is a game for the books. It's a game that will make your top 10 list for years to come, and when someone asks you what your favorite game is, Bioshock Infinite will be a serious contender, if not your answer.
What is all this? They were watching me? All this time? Why? Why did they put me in here? What am I? What am I?
You're the girl who's getting out of this tower.
The gorgeous visuals and orchestral score of near perfection running on the still powerful Unreal Tournament 3 engine serve to create one of the most pitch-perfect gaming experiences I've ever had the privilege of playing. If you can dig up the time, take the journey, walk around Columbia, and get to know Elizabeth as a friend, and get lost in Infinite. Don't play it with friends, play it by yourself the first time through, as it's an almost intimate experience. Get completely lost and dumbfounded in its near biblical level of astonishment, as Infinite takes my personal top spot as best single-player FPS to date.
No,